What if I told you that Jesus revealed something about you that no one has ever dared to say? What if I told you that right there, in the center of your chest, there is a light so powerful that even the deepest shadows in this world can't put it out? And if that's true, and it is, then why do you still feel like something is missing?
Why does it sometimes seem as if a part of you is still asleep, waiting for a calling that never comes, or that you haven't yet had the courage to answer? Imagine, for a moment, a silent sunrise, the sky still dark, but already carrying the promise of a new day. There's no sound except for a soft breeze moving through the leaves like an ancient whisper calling your name. And then, suddenly, the first spark of light appears. Small, quiet, but capable of transforming everything it touches. That's how the light inside you awakens, not with noise, but with depth, not with spectacle, but with truth. Jesus always saw that light in people, even when they couldn't see anything in themselves except their own wounds. He looked into every soul with sacred recognition, like someone discovering a treasure buried beneath the dust of time. He knew there was a hidden clarity in each person, an invisible force, a spark capable of illuminating entire paths, if awakened. But somehow, humanity forgot this. It forgot what Jesus tried to reveal from the beginning. And that's why you're here today, not by chance, not out of random curiosity, but because there is a secret pulsing inside of you, ancient, deep, spiritual, ready to be remembered. Today, you're going to discover 3 hidden truths about this inner light, 3 revelations that have crossed centuries, whispered into the hearts of those seeking meaning, and somehow survived through silence. Revelations Jesus left as clues for you to find your own path, even when everything around you feels like it's falling apart. Maybe you've felt this light at certain moments in your life, that sudden wave of unexpected peace, that soft touch of hope when everything seemed lost, that intuition that arose without explanation, or that invisible strength that picked you up when you thought you had nothing left. But the truth is, you've only seen fragments, small reflections, because the essence of this light, what it truly is, remains hidden from most people. But before you understand these revelations, before you understand why Jesus spoke so much about light, before you discover why you were chosen to carry it, there is something essential you need to know, something that changes everything. Because to understand what this light represents, you first need to understand what this light truly is, the inner light. You've heard that expression before, but few people actually feel the weight, depth, and mystery it carries. When Jesus said, "You are the light of the world," he wasn't giving a poetic compliment. He was revealing a spiritual truth that crosses cultures, philosophies, and centuries. The inner light isn't a spiritual accessory. It isn't a pretty detail of the soul. It's your deepest essence, the exact point where the divine touches the human and transforms it. Think for a moment about what light represents. Light reveals, light guides, light warms, light awakens, light protects, and above all, light gives life. Everything that lives, grows, moves, or blooms needs light. In the same way, everything within you that is meant to bloom, purpose, awareness, courage, compassion, depends on this inner light. That's why Jesus insisted on it. He knew that when a person reconnects with their light, they reconnect with themselves and with God. Ancient philosophers, long before Jesus, sensed that there was something inside us that couldn't be destroyed. The Stoics called it pneuma, a divine spark connecting us to the universe. Mystics spoke of an eternal flame burning inside each human being. Even those with no religious language spoke of inner strength, higher consciousness, or true essence. Every culture, in its own way, tried to explain the same mystery. Something inside us is not limited by the body, fear, or time. Something remains even when everything else falls apart. Jesus came and gave it a name. He called that spark light. He treated it as something alive, dynamic, active.
And have you noticed that Jesus never asked people to earn their light? He asked them not to hide it. That changes everything. Because something you need to earn exists outside of you, but something you need to reveal is already there, quiet, waiting. This light is your inspiration, your purpose, your intuition, your discernment, your ability to love even when giving up seems easier. It's the force that pushes you forward when your logic says you're done. It's that whisper that reminds you of your worth when the world tries to tell you otherwise. It's like a lit lamp inside a temple, sometimes strong and vibrant, sometimes weak, almost fading, but always lit, always present, always yours. But then the question appears, if this light is so powerful, why do so many people feel empty? Why do so many live with the feeling that something is missing? Why do so many walk around disconnected from their own spirit? The answer is simple, yet profound, because the inner light can be ignored. It doesn't scream. It doesn't invade. It doesn't force its way in. The light within is a divine presence that respects your freedom. It waits. It watches. It whispers. But if you ignore it over and over again, with hurry, guilt, fear, self-sabotage, distractions, excess, it hides. Not because it disappears, but because you stopped looking for it. And this is more common than you think. Most people today live in such a fast, noisy rhythm that they can no longer feel the light inside them. They've lost the ability to sense their own soul. They connect with everything, except themselves. They live reactive, automatic, overwhelmed, unaware that beneath the exhaustion there is a flame that never went out. Jesus knew this. He walked among people carrying deep wounds, old guilt, silent fears. He touched those the world considered broken. He looked into the eyes of those who had given up on themselves, and without condemnation, without demands, he said, "The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it." That phrase isn't only about him. It's about you. It's about all of us. If you feel like you're walking through darkness, if you feel like you've lost your shine, if you believe your light no longer matters, take a deep breath. Because you're about to remember something you may have forgotten for years. The inner light isn't a privilege of the strong. It isn't a gift reserved for the wise. It isn't a reward for the spiritually advanced. It's a presence born with you. It's part of your creation. It's the divine signature inside your being. And here's the most important point of this spiritual foundation. The inner light isn't passive. It's not there just to be admired. It's an active force. It moves. It calls. It invites you to awaken, to act, to transform. The inner light isn't only who you are, it's who you're becoming. But there's something Jesus tried to reveal, something few fully understood. A truth so deep that it changes the way you see yourself and your own journey. He left signs, stories, phrases, all pointing to 3 specific revelations about this light. Revelations forgotten over time, distorted, misunderstood, but that you're about to recover now. And the first one is so powerful it can transform how you see your own existence. Because Jesus made it clear that the light inside you isn't there by accident. It is a calling. And that's what you're going to understand from this moment on. From the moment Jesus declared, "You are the light of the world," he wasn't talking about something optional, decorative, or metaphorical.
He was talking about mission, purpose, a calling that transcends human logic and touches the spiritual root of who you truly are. Many people repeat this phrase as if it were a beautiful quote, but don't understand the spiritual weight it carries. Jesus didn't say some of you are light, or the holiest ones are light, or the most prepared ones are light. He said you, all of you. Every human being carries a silent calling inside, and that calling is their inner light.
But here's the striking part. The light isn't a random gift. It isn't a talent handed out to some while others go without. The light is given to you because there is something you, specifically you,
are meant to illuminate in this world. You didn't receive this light as a gift. You received it as a responsibility, and that changes everything. Imagine someone walking at night, carrying a lit lantern while everyone around them walks in complete darkness. The one holding the light isn't meant to show off. They're meant to guide. They see before others. They notice holes, stones, safe paths. They move ahead knowing their light isn't about themselves. It's about everyone around them. That's how your inner light works. It was entrusted to you so you could illuminate something only you can illuminate. And maybe you're asking, but me? Why would I have such an important light? The answer lies in how Jesus saw people. He saw brilliance where others saw nothing. He saw purpose where others saw failure. He saw destiny where the world saw shame. And that's how he sees you. Not for what you do, but for what you carry. Your light is a calling because it invites you to rise above the smaller version of yourself you've grown used to accepting. It calls you out of the internal shadows you've created. I'm not enough. I don't deserve it. I can't. I have no value. The inner light corrects those lies. It says, I was placed here because you have a path, because you have something the world needs, because there is a mission only you can fulfill. And this isn't motivational talk. It's pure spirituality, because the inner light is active. It moves you when you want to stop. It stirs you when you try to hide. It calls you when you try to ignore it. It's that subtle feeling that you were born for something greater, something you can't always explain, but that keeps knocking on the door of your conscience. Now imagine a story. Someone who spent their whole life believing they had no purpose. Someone who grew up hearing they weren't enough, that they weren't capable, that they wouldn't make any difference. They lived years like that, dimmed, invisible, lost inside themselves. Until one day, in the middle of chaos, something unexpected happened. Maybe a word, maybe an intuition, maybe a moment of silence. But something inside them lit up, small, fragile, but real. And in that moment, they realized they hadn't been living. They'd been surviving. And that flame glowing inside them wasn't imaginary. It was a calling, an invitation, a divine reminder that there was still a path ahead. That story belongs to many people. Maybe it belongs to you. Because most people spend their lives believing their inner light doesn't matter, but it does. It matters so much that even when you tried to give up on it, it never gave up on you. Jesus always saw the light as mission. He looked at fishermen, tax collectors, women society rejected, men crushed by guilt, and he said, "You are the light." He didn't ask them to be perfect. He asked them to be true, because perfection doesn't illuminate anyone. But authenticity illuminates multitudes. And that's why some people feel so empty. It's not lack of talent or luck or opportunity. It's lack of connection with their calling. Think deeply. You feel lost not because something is missing, but because something is being ignored. You're ignoring an inner calling, reminding you that you were created to shine. Your inner light is a calling pulling you out of conformity. It asks you for courage to leave behind the smaller versions of yourself. It challenges you not to hide behind fear, guilt, or past mistakes. It nudges you saying, you weren't born to live dimmed. And here's a deep truth. When you answer the call of your light, your life shifts. You begin to notice signs where you once saw coincidences. You begin to feel intuitions guiding you more clearly. You begin to understand that everything you've lived, the pain, the losses, the fears, wasn't punishment, but preparation. Every light needs training. Every lighthouse must be tested before facing a storm, and every soul must learn to trust its own light before illuminating others. When you understand that the light inside you is a spiritual calling, everything changes. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And begin asking, what is this trying to teach me? Life stops feeling random, and you begin to see that every detail, even the hardest moments,
was shaping the strength of your flame. Jesus knew the world would be dark. He knew you'd face difficult moments, and that's exactly why he placed the light inside you, not outside, because the light outside can be blown out by the wind, but the light within is protected by God. It's a divine flame kept deep inside your soul, and this flame was entrusted to you not to be hidden, but to be allowed to shine. Because when you let your light illuminate your path, other people start awakening to their own light too. This creates a chain reaction. One light ignites another, one awakened soul awakens another, one act of courage inspires another. And here is the deepest point of this first revelation. The light inside you is not about you. It's meant to move through you. It flows from God to you and from you to the world. It transforms you and transforms everything around you. But there is something even deeper, something Jesus tried to teach, but few truly understood. He revealed that your light doesn't just call you, it behaves in a mysterious spiritual way, a behavior that reveals its true strength. Because according to Jesus, your light shines brightest in the place you'd least expect. There's a phrase that sounds simple, but carries wisdom so profound that once understood, it changes the way you see your whole life. Darkness doesn't exist to destroy you. It exists to reveal who you truly are. This reflects the heart of Jesus' teachings, because he showed, not just with words, but with his life, that the inner light reaches its greatest intensity exactly when the night arrives. Jesus never ran from human pain. He walked toward it. He moved among the tired, touched the wounded, talked to the desperate, welcomed the forgotten. He always sought those whom society pushed into their darkest corners. And why? Because he knew that's where light reveals itself most authentically. Any candle can look bright at noon, but in the stillness of night, its flame proves its true power. And maybe you haven't noticed this yet, but your life works the same way. The dark phases, the ones where everything falls apart, where you lose something important, where hope trembles, where fear grows. They don't come to extinguish your light. They come to reveal it. Because it's when the ground disappears beneath your feet that you discover what really sustains you. It's when doors close that you find paths you once ignored. It's when tears fall that your soul becomes more sensitive to God's presence. Think about the darkest nights of your life, the ones you wish you could forget. Notice that even then, there was something inside you that didn't give up, a silent strength that kept you moving, a spark that remained lit despite everything. Maybe you called it instinct, perseverance, resilience, but in truth, it was your inner light. That same light Jesus said darkness cannot overcome. That's why Jesus never avoided the broken. He knew they carried a living flame, even if hidden under layers of pain. And that's why he looks at you the same way, not for what you lost, but for what still shines. Not for what hurt you, but for what shaped you. Not for what brought you down, but for what lifted you again. Darkness, scary as it is, has a sacred role in your spiritual journey. It forces you inward. It quiets the world outside so you can finally hear what God has been trying to say. It brings you closer to truth. Because when everything collapses, only what is essential remains. And the essential is light. Picture a lighthouse in a storm. Wind howling, waves crashing violently, the sky covered in shadows. The lighthouse trembles, wavers, but stands firm. And precisely because the storm is fierce, its beam becomes indispensable. If the sea were calm, if the night were clear, the lighthouse would be just another detail in the distance. But in the wildest night, it becomes the only reference. That's you. That's your light. Maybe today you're living through your own storm. Maybe you're facing something that makes no sense. Maybe you're carrying pain no one knows about. Maybe you feel alone, directionless, drained. But listen closely.
It's exactly in this moment that your light is most visible to God. He doesn't step away from your darkness. He meets you inside it. He isn't afraid of your fear. He illuminates you from within. And if you could see what he sees, you'd realize your light is growing, not fading. Because every time you choose to continue even when you're tired, your light grows. Every time you choose to love even when you're hurt, your light grows. Every time you choose to believe even when you don't understand, your light grows. And every time you face darkness, not with despair, but with quiet courage, you honor the light God placed inside you. The second hidden truth is this: darkness is not the end. It's the stage where your light reveals itself. It's there that you discover your worth, your strength, your faith. It's there that you realize you were never alone. And it's there that you approach the deepest revelation of all. Because if light is a calling, and if it shines brightest in the dark, then there is one more truth, the most sacred, the most transformative. The truth that reveals why this light exists and why it never goes out. There is a profound, spiritual, utterly divine reason Jesus spoke so often about light. A reason beyond poetry, metaphor, or philosophy. The inner light is not just strength, not just purpose, not just calling. The inner light is God's presence within you. It's the point where heaven touches earth, the silent link between your humanity and eternity. Jesus tried to reveal this again and again. When he said, "The kingdom of God is within you," he wasn't speaking of a faraway place hidden beyond the clouds. He was saying God lives in the essence of your soul, that something divine pulses inside you, something no pain, no mistake, no trauma, no fall can put out. This light is the spark that reminds you who you are when the world tries to make you forget. It's the intuition that rises when everything feels confusing. It's the peace that appears without explanation. It's the hope that insists on returning, even after storms. It's the flame that never dies, even when you feel weak, empty, or lost. And here's the most sacred truth of all. When you lose connection to this light, you lose connection to God. Not because he leaves, but because you stop hearing him. The light is the channel, the bridge, the invisible thread linking your soul to the Creator. And when you look inward again, when you breathe deeply and sense that soft glow, it's like coming home. The light within you is God's spiritual signature, the silent reminder that you came from him, live with him, and return to him. And now that you know the three truths, the most important moment begins, integrating these revelations into your life. Now that these three truths have been revealed, something begins aligning inside you, like spiritual pieces suddenly fitting together into a greater meaning. Because none of these truths stand alone. They complete each other. They illuminate each other. They form the invisible structure of your spiritual journey, your mission, and your connection to God. When Jesus said you are the light of the world, he was reminding you that light is a calling. Not luck, not coincidence, not spiritual privilege. It is purpose, direction. The silent force inviting you to live with more awareness, more integrity, more love. Light is the inner voice calling you to become who you were created to be. But he also knew this calling wouldn't be revealed on easy days. Light proves itself in darkness. That's why he taught that your light shines brightest where life feels hardest. Because loss uncovers your strength. Fall reveals your faith. Vulnerability gives you truth. Darkness doesn't come to punish you. It comes to awaken you. And then he finished everything with the final revelation. The inner light is your direct connection to God. That's why it never goes out. Light is the place where your soul speaks to the divine. It's the spiritual presence that has been with you since your first breath and stays until your last. So how do you unite these three truths in practice? First, look inward with honesty. Ask yourself, what is your light calling you to do, to feel, or to transform?
What area of your life is asking for more truth, more courage, more authenticity? The calling of light always begins as a whisper, an intuition, a subtle discomfort. Then observe your darkness, not to surrender to it, but to understand it. What is challenging you? What is hurting you? What feels too heavy to carry? That's where your light wants to grow stronger. That's the place where God wants to show you something. And finally, remember every day the divine presence within you. Not as theory, but as reality. Take small moments of silence, breathing, introspection. Feel this light. Let it guide you. Notice how it illuminates thoughts, decisions, paths. Light is a calling. Light grows in darkness. Light is God within you. When you integrate these three truths, your vision changes, your posture shifts, your energy becomes different. You stop living by impulse and start living with purpose. You stop surviving and start awakening. And just as one candle can light hundreds of others without losing its glow, your light can also transform the lives around you. You were created for this. And now that you understand, it's time to close this journey with an open heart. Remember the question we asked at the very beginning. Why do you feel like something is missing? The answer now stands clear. Because your light is calling. Because something divine inside you is asking to awaken. Because what you think is emptiness is actually an invitation. Jesus always knew this. He knew that in the silence of the soul, there is a flame that never goes out. Even when you feel lost, even when you feel small, even when everything seems out of control, Jesus saw this light in people long before they noticed it themselves. He looked at every human being as someone carrying purpose, meaning, and spiritual potential. And he looks at you the same way today. Nothing, absolutely nothing, you've lived has put out your light. No pain, no fall, no mistake, no dark night. Because this light doesn't depend on circumstances. It comes from God. It is sustained by God. It is protected by God. That's why Jesus said with such conviction, "The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it." And it never will. Maybe you've spent your whole life believing something was missing in you, but now you know, nothing is missing. The connection with your light simply needed to be restored. And it's coming back. You can feel it. You can sense it. You're breathing a little deeper, as if something inside your chest has begun to reignite after a long time. Your light is a calling. Your light shines brightest in darkness. Your light is the divine presence within you. If you embrace these three truths, not only your spirituality changes, your entire life changes. Your perspective, your relationships, your choices, your inner strength, everything gains a new tone. You stop living like someone stumbling in the dark and start walking like someone who knows where they're going, even if the path isn't fully clear yet. Because those who carry light are never alone. Those who carry light always find direction. Those who carry light inspire the world around them. And now, to end this journey, I leave you with something simple, yet deeply true. Nothing can extinguish the light God placed inside you. Not the world, not circumstance, not the past, not fear, not even you. Your light is eternal, and Jesus still sees it in you. Today, right now, in this very moment. And before we close, here's the final line that always accompanies our stories. What part of this message spoke to your heart today? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories like this. Take a deep breath, feel the light inside you, and allow it to guide your next steps. You were born to shine,